The story begins with a young boy named Pete, who is 5 years old. It is the year 1977. Pete is traveling through a dense forest with his parents when a deer suddenly appears in front of their car. The car crashes, and Pete's parents die in the accident. Pete survives, but he is left all alone in the middle of the forest. The only thing he has with him is his storybook. Confused and frightened, he wanders through the woods. Suddenly, a pack of wolves begins chasing him. Just before the wolves can attack, a huge green dragon with yellow eyes appears and scares them away. This dragon is kind-hearted and realizes that Pete has no one left. He decides to take care of the boy. Soon, a strong friendship develops between them. In Pete's storybook, there is a character named Elliot, so Pete gives the dragon the same name. 6 years pass. Now it is 1983, and Pete and Elliot have been living together deep in the forest. Pete has learned how to survive in the wild, and the two have become each other's family. Meanwhile, a forest ranger named Grace works in the area. She is dedicated to protecting the forest and its wildlife. Every night, Pete reads stories from the same book he carried with him as a child and tells them to Elliot. One day, a lumberjack named Jack arrives in the forest with his crew. Jack has a daughter named Natalie. While they are cutting trees, Pete hears them and secretly watches from a distance. Natalie notices him and follows him. Pete climbs a tree to escape. Natalie tries to climb after him, but almost falls. Before she can hit the ground, Pete catches her. However, both of them fall from the tree. Grace arrives and is shocked to find a wild-looking young boy living alone in such a remote forest. She follows him and eventually catches him. She finds a compass among his belongings. Pete tries to run away several times, but is captured again. During all this, Elliot wakes up in his cave and senses that Pete needs help. The dragon travels toward the area where Pete was found. By then, Pete has already been taken to a hospital. When Elliot cannot find him, he becomes angry and knocks down a huge tree. Jack's brother Gavin, who is also a hunter, notices the destruction and realizes that a large, unknown creature must be living in the forest. He decides to track it down. At the hospital, Pete regains consciousness. Everything around him feels strange because he has spent years living in the wild. He escapes through a window and runs through town while shouting Elliot's name. Eventually, he reaches a dead end. Grace catches up with him and comforts him with a hug. Pete feels safe with her. Grace takes Pete home. Later, Pete again tries to run back into the forest, but Grace stops him. She tells him that she also loved the forest when she was young, which is why she became a forest ranger. She promises Pete that she will help him. Pete agrees to stay with her for one night. Meanwhile, Gavin continues searching for the mysterious creature that knocked down the tree. He finds enormous footprints and becomes convinced that a giant animal is nearby. Elliot is actually close by, but he has the ability to become invisible. Because of this, Gavin and his companions cannot find him. That night, Gavin and his men return to the forest. They discover Elliot's cave and find Pete's storybook inside. As they try to take it, Elliot appears before them. Everyone is terrified. They run away in fear. Although Elliot could easily harm them, he chooses not to. Back at Grace's house, the authorities discover Pete's identity. They learn that his parents died in a car accident 6 years earlier. Grace feels sympathy for him because she also lost her mother when she was young. She cannot understand how such a small child managed to survive alone in the wilderness for 6 years. Grace tells Pete that social services will arrive the next day and take him away. She asks him how he survived all those years. Pete explains that he was never alone. He had a friend named Elliot. Pete shows her a drawing he made of the dragon. He explains that Elliot is his best friend and that they have always stayed together. Outside, Gavin tells Jack that he has seen a dragon in the forest and wants to capture it at any cost. Jack does not believe him. Grace overhears the conversation and begins to think that Pete might actually be telling the truth. The next day, Pete spends time reading stories with Natalie. Suddenly, Elliot appears outside the window. He has finally found Pete. When Elliot sees Pete happily living with a family, he feels lonely and sad. He quietly leaves. Grace then takes Pete's drawing to her father, Meacham. For years, Meacham has claimed that he once saw a dragon in the forest, but nobody believed him. When he sees Pete's drawing, he compares it with his own old sketches and realizes they are the same creature. Meacham explains that many years ago, while hunting in the forest, he encountered the dragon. He even aimed his gun at it. However, the dragon never attacked him. They simply looked at each other before the dragon flew away. Although he told many people about the encounter, nobody ever believed him. Grace is amazed because she has worked in the forest for years and has never seen the dragon. The next morning, Grace, Meacham, Natalie, and Pete go into the forest. Pete leads them deep into the woods and brings them to Elliot's cave. Pete calls Elliot, and the dragon comes out. At first, everyone is frightened, but they quickly realize that Elliot is gentle and harmless. They are happy to finally meet him. Unfortunately, Gavin and his hunting companions arrive at the same time. Gavin attacks Elliot using tranquilizer darts. Even though Elliot tries to escape by flying away, the tranquilizers spread through his body. He becomes weak and falls from the sky. Gavin captures him and transports him in a large truck. Jack argues that the discovery should be reported properly, but Gavin wants all the credit for himself. Pete is devastated by Elliot's capture. Natalie apologizes because nobody expected something like this to happen. Together, Pete and Natalie decide to rescue Elliot. They sneak into the warehouse where Elliot is being held. They find him chained up and badly weakened. They lock the doors from the inside and free him. Soon, Gavin, the police, and many other people break into the building. By then, Elliot has escaped again. Grace notices Pete and Natalie hiding nearby and realizes what they have done. Elliot is still too weak to travel far. He hides himself but remains exhausted. Meacham eventually arrives with a truck and secretly helps transport Elliot away from danger. The authorities discover what happened and begin chasing them. Meacham drives toward a bridge while Elliot slowly recovers. Once stronger, Elliot flies above the bridge. As police vehicles approach, Elliot becomes frightened. In the confusion, part of the bridge is damaged and several vehicles are put in danger. Before anyone is seriously hurt, Elliot helps prevent a disaster and saves lives. Witnessing this, everyone realizes that Elliot is not a monster. Even Gavin finally understands that capturing the dragon was wrong. Soon, helicopters arrive, forcing Elliot and Pete to leave. The two friends return to their old home near the cave, but their cave has been destroyed. Elliot explains, in his own way, that they cannot stay there anymore because people now know where he lives. More importantly, Elliot realizes that Pete will never truly be safe if he stays with him forever. Pete wants to remain with Elliot, but the dragon shows him a picture in the storybook of a happy family living together. Elliot is trying to tell Pete that he belongs with Grace, Jack, Natalie, and the people who love him. Pete understands. Although neither of them wants to say goodbye, they know it is the right thing to do. The two friends share an emotional farewell. Pete returns to Grace's family, who welcome him with love and affection. Elliot flies away into the sky. Sometime later, Grace and Jack have become a family with Pete and Natalie. They continue living happily together. Whenever they visit the forest, they remember Elliot. Far away in the mountains, Elliot is shown meeting other dragons of his kind, proving that he is no longer alone. And with that, the story comes to an end.